Hi everyone. I just wanted to go over real quick a few things about online dictionaries and translators. As per the syllabus, of course, online translators are technically considered a form of plagiarism since it's the computer doing your work, right, and not you. So you want to try to avoid those in general. So if your instructor happens to see or notice something that's a bit funny, don't be surprised if you get an email back about that. Of course, if you didn't, you can always say, oh no, I looked things up here, I looked things up there, that's fine. Also, if you use a outside help of some sort, like a tutor, let's say, that's completely fine. We suggest that it's always good to get extra help. Just make sure you kind of keep track of things. Two things if you're using a tutor. If they're not here at Penn State, have them maybe contact your instructor so your instructor can give the tutor feedback as to how we expect tutoring to go, like what types of information. And two, if you're writing something, make sure you have your original copy and the thing that you worked on with your tutor sent here. Okay, please ignore that here. So that way we have both the original copy, so we can see what you actually wrote in the beginning, and then what you got help with, right? So we need both if you do go see a tutor. So please keep that in mind. Now, translators and dictionaries. The best thing to use when you're looking for words and stuff are online dictionaries or your paper dictionary. One, not only are translators considered, again, plagiarism and not allowed, but often they get you the wrong thing, right? And here I'll show you an example. We're going to work with the word fall, okay, which has many meanings, right? It does in English too, like fall as in autumn, right, in the fall, or we have like if you fall down, or the fall of an empire. You have these different meanings. And so when you go to look one up, you don't always know which one to find, and that's where using an online dictionary, or which one to use I should say, that's where using an online dictionary can help. So if you go to something like this particular website, this is Leo. You can either Google Leo, or it's DICT, short for dictionary.leo.org, and you'll come here. I put in the word fall, for example, in the search field, and if you look down here, you got many different options, right? And you can actually hear the pronunciation if you want to by clicking the play button. This would be English. Here's the German over here. And the first column that usually comes up will be nouns, okay? And so if you notice, look at all these different nouns for fall. Fall, Sturz, Herbst, Rückgang, right? All these different things, and they have different meanings. And so you might not be sure which one to use because they all say fall here in English, right? And what you can do, for example, then, is if I click on the German version, I will get a list of other definitions, right? So here's autumn, fall, harvest. So if I'm talking about the season, I know I have the right one. It's Herbst, yeah? And you can always go back to your big list by clicking back and look at it again, right? And they all have like slightly different meanings, okay? Next down under Verben, you'll get the verbs, right? To fall away, to fall apart, and they give you some different things. Again, if you're not sure which one you're supposed to use, right, I could click on Absinken, and that means to slide, to descend, right? Deepening, okay? Driving in terms of technology. It gives you little tips here. This is a geology type term when you use it this way, okay? Technology, etc., etc. So it does give you a little bit of extra information, which is very nice to help you try to figure out which one that you should be using. It also gives you the gender and the pronunciation if you want that. If we look back at the verbs here, there's a couple things to look at. Again, the pronunciation. You have the regular infinitive form, which you'll learn. This is the simple past tense form, and this is the perfect form. Okay? These are both different past tense forms, and you'll learn over time which one you're supposed to use. So make sure you get the right one. You don't want the false one, because that could result in a loss of points if you're only supposed to use one and not the other. You can click on it again to get extra meaning. You also have this column right here, and if I click on that, I will get the conjugation of it. So here's Präsens means present tense. Yeah? Ich stürze mich. So that's how I would say it in the present tense with I, right, when I conjugate it for I, which is something you're going to learn here. So if you're not familiar with what verb conjugation is, you're going to learn that pretty soon. If you already know, then this chart looks familiar. Perfect, again, that's that one past tense form. Use haben, and then the past participle. So it gives you all the different things. Praeteritum, plusquamperfect, these are things that you'll learn over time in your course, yeah? And those are all here, okay? So that's very helpful to use if you're not sure how to conjugate it. It gives you all these different forms, and you can go back and look at it if you need to, okay? At the very bottom of Leo, and it gives you different things. How do you use it with prepositions, right? How do you use it in certain phrases? So you got a whole bunch of different things. So it does take a little investigation on your part to make sure you have the right one, but it'll help make sure you're choosing the right items. At the very, very bottom, they do have a forum. Now, a lot of this is written in German, which you'll have trouble understanding if you're just beginning. However, some of these, they do also talk about it in English, so you might be able to click on some of these, right? And here's one in English, yeah? You might be able to click on some of these and still be able to figure out, okay, I'm supposed to use it this way or that way, okay? Another good dictionary that's online is Pons, right? It's pons.eu will get you to the main page. You can also use the .de German one. And then when you log in, right, you can select, for example, the different languages. So here's English to German, and notice I put Fall in again. And it gives me a bunch of different information. So here's Fall, right? Gives you a few sentence examples. Again, you have pronunciation, all right? It also tells you the plural form, which is the second one right here, okay? So that one's important. Here's the plural, not this first one. That'll come with something else later on. But here is the plural form right there, so it gives you that as well. And you have all that extra information. You can also click this plus button, and if you want to, it's free to register with Pons, and you can actually start clicking on that, and it puts it into a vocabulary trainer for you, so you can actually start creating like little cards. It's got a bunch of little games where you can practice the nouns and the verbs and stuff like that, and that's pretty helpful, and it's free to use. So you also have Pons. So dictionaries are good to use. Your paper dictionary also gives you definitions. Don't forget your book. As much as possible, stay with the vocab that's in your book, because that's the vocab you'll be repeating over and over again. That's the vocab that'll appear in like little quizzes and things like that, and vocab that we'll expect you to know. But occasionally you're going to be writing something and you might want to find something else. So either your paper dictionary or something like Leo or Pons' work, but make sure it's a dictionary and not a translator, okay? Here's an example of a translator, like Google Translate. And here's the problem. Remember I showed you that list of all the different cases, right, with Fall? If I put in the Fall, it just gives me one, der Rückgang. It doesn't know which fall you want, right? And so if you're using a translator to look up even single words, you might not be getting the right one. So not only are you not getting any extra definitions or help, but you might not be using the right word in general. And that's the problem with translators, and you end up with a bunch of false things, which of course runs into less points, the possibility that your teacher recognizes something is translated, and you get 0 points for the assignment, so on and so forth. So you kind of want to avoid those things. Also, a translator isn't obviously 100% correct either. It creates a lot of issues as well. If I put like, I like to drive, right? Like I like to drive my car. I like to drive. Notice here it says ich mag zu fahren. Normally in German, they're never going to say ich mag zu fahren. You would say ich fahre gern, for I like to drive. So not only is the structure wrong, in one way you would say ich fahre gern, not ich mag zu fahren, because ich mag zu fahren. Okay? Not only is that wrong, it's wrong in two ways. So the first way I mentioned, and also this zu here, this is a grammar rule that you'll learn, okay, never gets paired up with this type of a verb. So it makes two very major basic errors in there. So not only is the entire sentence wrong, but if you're, which would cause you to lose points, but if your instructor sees something like this, which is very common for translators, you could get 0 points for that particular activity, right? So that's why you just want to avoid it. If you want to use it a little bit to give you some ideas, obviously that's fine, but you need to go through it, you need to correct it, you need to make sure that you're just not copying and pasting out of here, because often you're going to get wrong words that aren't translated right, as well as false structures and false forms. And on top of that, because you're just taking it from there, you're not actually learning things. So when it comes time to, because you're copying and pasting, right, instead of like trying to figure out the sentence yourself. So what happens then is, if you're doing a let's say a quiz later on, or something like that, right, where you have to recall the information off the top of your head, or if you're going to try in a chat, because you didn't practice writing that yourself, it's not really stuck in your head, if you understand the meaning there, what I'm getting at. And so it kind of hurts you in multiple ways. So you want to just kind of be careful with those types of things, okay? Anyways, so that's the note on dictionaries and translators. Make sure, again, you look up multiple things when you go to a dictionary. As I mentioned, like with Leo or pawns, don't just grab the first one you see, fall, de fall. Make sure you check the different options. Okay, how do I know which one it is? I want like to fall down, like I had a fall. So I'll click on Stürz, oh, fall, to collapse. So yeah, that's what I want to say, I fell, right? And if I'm still not sure, I can click on others to read them. I can go down further and look to see what we have for other things. So it kind of gives you a little bit of idea. You might not get it right, but at least you tried to get there. You know, there's just like in English, there's multiple meanings for one word, and sometimes you don't quite get the right one, and that's okay. But it's better than just blindly guessing, for something like with the translator. So hope that helped, and thanks.